we get started, make sure you subscribe to our channel. If you're on YouTube, click the alert notification button, and if you like the video, please click like and share.
So I'll just introduce myself first. My name is Isla Carboon. I am a lecturer in applied psychology in the Melbourne School of Psychological Sciences here at the University of Melbourne. So I teach in that Master of Applied Psychology, which we call the MAP program. And I also, in second semester, take a research seminar in our third year capstone subject. So any third years here, I'll be research seminaring next semester. And just for those of you, I can see some of our MAP students here today, hello, but for those of you who don't know about the Master of Applied Psychology, it's a degree that's been active here at the University of Melbourne for about 4 years now. In a very kind of short way, I'd call it behavioural science for business. It was a degree created by Associate Professor Cassie Haywood and Professor Nick Haslam, who saw enormous potential for all of the people who graduate with psychology majors but don't end up going on to a clinical degree or academia. There are a world of jobs out there for our psychology skills, and the Master of Applied Psychology was about giving people another pathway. So this talk is the first in a series called This Could Be You, and it's a career talks for psychology students. I originally thought about these for our Master of Applied Psychology students, but I know that a lot of people from our school doing psychology majors or doing graduate psychology study are really interested as well. So we've opened it up to everybody. The two things we're wanting to do with these talks, first is letting you know about all the different kinds of careers that you can go on to with a psychology major, undergraduate, or even a PhD, and also just helping you prepare for that time when you graduate and you're looking for your first job in your preferred career. And that's particularly why Camilla's with us today, because that's what she is an expert in. So it looks like almost half of us, you, are undergrad students, so welcome, great to have you. We've got some honours students and graduate diploma students, another good group of people, and MAP students, hello, and we've got a few PhD students and some graduates. So welcome everybody. Okay, welcome Camilla.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This doesn't feel so intimidating, just us two being able to see each other, not the 95 people watching virtually.
Yeah. Hi, the other 90 people out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Camilla, I'm really grateful that you're here with us today. And first, I wanted you to just tell everyone here about the business that you work with. It's called Give a Grad a Go.
Absolutely. Cool. So Give a Grad a Go. It's a graduate specialist recruitment agency. I actually joined Give a Grad a Go 8 years ago when I was almost a graduate. I'd had about a year or so of experience out of university, finished my degree, and came to the agency trying to find a job myself. And really what Give a Grad a Go does is help students, recent grads, people kind of at the start of their career search figure out what it is they want to do. It's a totally free service, and we're not role or sector specific, so it allows us to have really open conversations with people who are trying to figure out what avenues are out there, and we can kind of look at various options. And then we work with a whole host of different businesses, from startups to small, medium enterprises to some larger corporations, and across all different industries, whether it's tech, agencies, financial institutions, just across the board. And then our job is to really connect grads to hopefully a job that they'll love and guide them through that whole process. It might be your first interview, your first time applying for jobs. So we're really there to kind of hold your hand, be your cheerleader, yeah, so that's kind of what Give a Grad a Go does in a nutshell. It is very much in the name. With big cheerleaders of grads getting a go. So yeah.
Fantastic. And gosh, all of that sounds pretty amazing that you can offer those services for free. That's extraordinary.
For grads, yeah, we try our best.
Yeah. And what about your career quickly?
Yeah.
Give me-
I got a bit of a well, I mean, like I said, I joined Give a Grad a Go 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I moved to London after university because I really wanted to sing. So I wanted to pursue that.
What
Got
was
to
your university degree?
the not music, history. So yeah, obviously you come out, when I finished my degree, studied history, came out of university, and everyone was like, so you're going to be a librarian or a teacher? um, Both of which you need to definitely continue studying further. And I don't think I had the smarts for that, but I didn't really know what I was going to do, especially in the business sense. I really did always kind of have my head in the clouds of wanting to pursue singing, which now, it was a hobby. But there was a point in my life when I was like, maybe. And so my first corporate job was working in an energy company. I just found an administrative job. I didn't really have any office-based experience before. I'd always worked in retail from a really young age. As soon as I could, I had a weekend job. And yeah, so I had this pretty corporate position in an energy company. I knew absolutely nothing about energy before, but I learned kind of how to be in an office,
Mm,
how you're meant to act, and all that sort of stuff. Small chat in, when you're making coffees and that. But I after a year, I really realized it wasn't the right industry for me, and I wanted to move anyway. So I found Give a Grad a Go. I hadn't really heard of recruitment before, to be honest. It was really new to me. I didn't even know these things existed. And I had a chat with my now boss, who kind of was like, "Well, you can talk. Why don't you come in and like see what it's like here?" So I came in and just absolutely loved the environment. It was a pretty small team at the time. There was just 5 people. It was really young. There was just a lot of energy. Everyone like on the phones, but just really welcoming. And I also saw it as an opportunity to learn about different jobs out there. If
mm,
I'm if I go into recruitment for grads, then I'm going to know what is out there, and
mm,
potential avenues for me. And it just turned out that I really really loved working with people and helping them, like guide them through their careers and getting people jobs. There's nothing better than that.
yeah.
And seeing where people have gone over the last few years, where they've progressed and that sort of thing. So yeah, I worked for Give a Grad a Go for the last 8 years, and then I came out to Australia to launch our Australian operations. I should have said before, actually, that we started in the UK. We've been there for 10 years,
Yeah. Okay.
hence the accent. So, yeah, I've been spending the last almost, yeah, just over a year setting things up here and helping grads in Australia find a job.
Fantastic. Always interesting to hear people's career pathways themselves. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things I want to do first is just to give a bit of context is talk to people about the kinds of jobs that psychology students can go into. And I thought I might just mention first with our Master of Applied Psychology graduates, the jobs that they've gone into, or the industries, I should say, that they've gone into. Market research, social research, behaviour change agencies, marketing, communications, advertising, tech, government, and public health, sort of that sort of thing. So that's a kind of broad range of some of the opportunities. So Camilla, just given that, with your work, what kinds of jobs do you see psychology graduates going into?
Yeah, I've actually got the recent list just of the last year of where we've seen psychology graduates move into, and that spans across, if I look at the sectors, fintech, so financial technology, there's quite a few there. marketing and advertising, technology, banking and finance. And in terms of different types of roles, quite interestingly, a lot of the positions are in like customer facing, client facing work,
Mm,
customer operations executive, marketing analyst,
mm.
a couple marketing analysts, investment executive,
Wow.
junior science copywriter, business development, client services. So really, it's not limited at all when it comes down to it. And if that just going off that list, if I look back at the last few years of recruitment and when I've been placing people in roles, definitely opportunities like in digital marketing where you can transfer those analytical skills in that
Yeah.
sort of space, but also being able to really, from your research based skills and also just being able to really empathize with people and understand people, that really puts you in a great position to be in those client facing type of roles. So yeah, it's really not limited at all, to be honest. There's some that make clearer sense, but then there's other ways where it really does transfer quite easily as well.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, yeah, quite broad, and yeah, many opportunities out there. Career pathways. This is something I think is always an interesting conversation. For me, my assumption has been for a long time that the way you get a job is you look for job advertisements online, and then you send an application in. But there are lots of ways to get jobs that aren't like that. So I was kind of interested to talk to you about how people get jobs, how graduates
Yes,
get jobs really these days.
it's a big question, but it's really important because I think you're so right. When I first was looking for a job, I was just scrolling jobs boards. I'd apply and I'd just wait. I had no idea that it's okay to chase. If you send an application as well, if you are going to be doing that avenue, which is a completely fair enough way to go to one avenue, is if you don't hear back within a week, find out who the hiring manager is, or find out if there's an email you can chase and just find out about your application. There may just be a lot of applications happening, and so really you're just putting your application to the top of the pile as well, and it
Mm,
shows proactivity. But if you're looking at other ways to connect with businesses, and also as a bit of an exercise for you to find out what it is you want to go into, I'd really suggest, if you are, and I saw a lot of people are in their first year here, or even if you're in your second or third year, trying to get some volunteer experience or internships just to gain insights into different industries. So if you are, there's some great website marketplaces out there, like Ribbit is an awesome platform for you to get on there and have a look. They basically have a whole heap of different companies looking for students primarily who are looking for project based work or internships. It is focused on STEM students as well and in the tech space. But being able to build up your understanding of different industries, the best way is to just get out there and get some experience. And I'd say, it's just really grabbing every opportunity to speak to someone in a different industry or profession. If you've got the opportunity to, whether it's a family friend, if it can be quite intimidating to go straight to the professional space, but any meeting is a good meeting to get an idea of what you do want to go into. And I think also, especially increasingly now, that first choice that you do make out of your studies or even during your studies of where you work, that doesn't mean it has to be your career path
mm,
for the next 10 years or even 5 years, but it's all building experience and confidence. Like I
mm.
said, from my first experience of that administration job that I had, I didn't love it, but it taught me what it was like to be in an office. I got to improve my Excel skills, which I was terrible at, and
Mm.
just getting the confidence to pick up the phone. So I think, yeah, if I think about different avenues, you've got obviously internships. and you've got just opportunities to set up a bit of experience. But then on the other side, once you have finished and you can go into full-time work, there's things like graduate programs which are completely tailored to graduates. They do tend to be with the bigger organizations where they have the infrastructure to bring on a graduate who might not have any experience at the start of their career. And it might cover 1 to 2 years where you'll have the opportunity to experience different departments. And within that, you do get a great overview of how businesses run and what's going to really suit your strengths, have lots of touch points to different managers and their styles, and just learn how, what sort of career path will work for you that way.
Yeah, there seem to be more and more companies doing graduate programs. We have a number of our Master of Applied Psychology graduates have gone into graduate programs with market social research organisations that have got grad programs set up. The tech companies have grad programs, as well as obviously the big four or big five consulting companies. But it's absolutely, always worth a look at what's out there for that option, and that they have really long lead times in applying for them. Like, I think there's some of them advertise like a year before they're actually going to take graduates in. So anyone who's that sounds like an interesting option, just get online and look at grad programs as something you can do. Great. Okay. I think one of the other things that you said I think is really interesting is you can't always get your ideal job first off, and sometimes you might have a strong idea of what industry or what kind of career you want to get into, but you may not be able to, they're one of those jobs that advertise for 2 or 3 years plus experience, so that there is the option always of going and getting what they often call a gateway job that's a little bit related, that will give you some of those kind of just prove your skills and get you experienced in workplaces that you can then go and move into the job of your dreams. You've mentioned, Camilla, that you work a bit with startups. So I was kind of really keen for everyone to hear a little bit more about, that as an opportunity. And, just for anyone who doesn't know what startup means, just kind of give some context into that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a huge part of the work that we do at Give a Grad a Go in connecting graduates to startups, especially when we started. A bit of backstory was 2009, and the global financial crisis was full in swing, and you had all these big companies and programs that would normally be taking grads who just really couldn't. But on the flip side, you had all these amazing, innovative companies coming out of that crash, which were looking for junior talent, and we would connect the dots. Because what a startup really is doing is trying to solve a problem within its industry and revolutionizing, how things are operating to move it forward, to progress it. So a startup, it's such a buzzword, I know, and there'll be so much out there. If you just Google what is a startup, there's a heaps to read on it if you're interested, but trying to really break it down, which I try, is it is really, they're trying to solve, it's a company trying to solve a problem. And it also, the difference between a startup and a small business is a startup has then the ability to scale. So if you are interested at going down that path, there's also heaps more information on understanding about what stage a startup is at, because that's also really important to be aware of. They could be at the inception of deciding how they're going to solve that problem, or they could have gone through different rounds of funding and have a lot of money behind them and have a lot more to be able to support and progress. So it's just good to be aware of those sorts of things when going through it. But in terms of startups, broadly speaking, we have really supported startups a lot over the last few years. They are primarily tend to be emerging technology industries. So just looking back at where we've kind of how our pie chart of where we've placed people over the last year, like a third is within fintech, within
Wow.
financial
Yeah.
technology. Yeah. So and I'm breaking that down because I know sometimes there'll be jargon that, words that you wouldn't have heard
Yeah.
of before,
Mm.
but that's really just any financial service that we can do digitally, which makes complete sense that that's going to be thriving and growing. So all these different industries like ed tech. So looking back at last year, being able to actually educate everyone online suddenly required all these education technology companies. And so you then in hand, you need all these solutions being provided very quickly. And so you've got all of this investment and financial support being thrown into these companies who then need to scale.
Yeah.
And they're looking for junior talent to be able to scale, cost effectively as well. And so there's so many opportunities within startups. And I guess if we look at the benefits of being in a startup, it does generally tend to be a smaller company, um, depending on when you're joining. And so you'll usually be sat side by side, connected with the CEO, heads of different departments, and you'll get a real insight again, like I mentioned with the grad program, but you'll be really in the thick of it, being able to see how everything connects. How does, marketing correspond with sales, and how does that affect engineering and the product team? So it's really, really interesting. And usually every day will be different, which can be a challenge. And the biggest kind of saying I hear from hiring managers in startups is we need people who are going to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, which in itself provides so much growth in your own career. And to have that exposure so early on in your career, it's just huge, and it's so valuable. So I'm big advocate for startups. And again, you can just go into any type of role. A lot of startups love bringing grads on in quite a diverse, varied role. So you might start as a general kind of intern and be helping out with, dealing with customers, or you might be working on some marketing projects or providing research that's required, using your own analytical skills, but then also being able to deal with clients. So it can be really, really varied, challenging work as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of work, if people aren't aware, I think, in tech companies for psychology graduates, because we have really fantastic research skills to go in and research their market for their products, to go in and work with potential customers as to the designs of their products. That's going into areas like user experience and customer experience and things like that. So having behavioural science, human behaviour understanding, plus really good research skills, there's a huge scope for getting jobs in companies at that stage in their life cycle and ongoing. So
Absolutely. And
yeah.
actually a lot of startups are in the tech industry because they are, that they're innovators, and that tends to lend itself to tech. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be technical.
Yeah,
You don't have to
exactly.
be
Yeah.
going into a tech role. It's really about being able to understand people
Yeah.
and understand the tech. And that's where graduates who have studied psychology really are perfect for that environment, because it's all about empathy for human beings and their needs. So there's heaps of opportunity that's so relevant for the sort of skills that psychology grads have.
Great. Thank you. Now, so when we saw who's here today, we've seen there's some people who are a few years away from graduating in undergrad, some people in masters, some people in PhDs. I'm just kind of interested in general kind of job hunting tips, and the one that I wanted to start off with, and I'll just tell people about this. I know the MAP students have heard this from me before, but I wanted to have a quick chat about LinkedIn. And I'll just first note that Camilla and we live in the same suburb, but we met on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very good place to network with people for job purposes, to learn about jobs. So Camilla, I just wanted you to, being in your industry, say a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. We didn't realize we lived in the same suburb until we even realized that I'd gone for a swim at the same time that you'd walked your dog on the same bay. But yeah, I am just a huge advocate of LinkedIn. And now increasingly, have to say, over the last 8 years, I used to, when someone applied, I'd try and kind of find their digital footprint. It's just good to get like a broader picture. And now the first thing I do is try and find them on LinkedIn. It's just a huge, it shows, if you look at what you're liking, what you're, how you've laid it out, all of that just shows how, you're fair in the professional world. So when people don't have a LinkedIn account, I actually say to them, I really think that's the first thing you should do off this call.
Yeah.
So if there's one thing people take away from today, I really hope everyone has a LinkedIn account by the end of the week, and feel free to connect with me. But LinkedIn, yeah, it's become even more important, like you said, over the last year as well. I've actually moving over here and launching Give a Grad a Go during the pandemic when everything closed down. It was one of my only opportunities to really reach out to people and connect. And I made so many valuable connections. And what I will say is, if you are going to get on LinkedIn and start connecting with people, always personalize your connection. You have 300 words to connect with someone. Just explain in those 300 words why you want to connect. It doesn't, and that just paints more of a picture and just makes more sense from the outset. But I do think of LinkedIn a bit like Instagram. If anyone uses Instagram, I'm assuming so. If you know what it is, social media platform where you can spend hours scrolling. But I think of LinkedIn as another platform where you can really shape your news feed. So if you do have your LinkedIn account, start connecting with, start following businesses that interest you, start connecting with hubs. There's groups on there connected to your faculties, the societies on there. You can also follow, if you are interested in startups, there's amazing hubs in Victoria, like Stone and Chalk, Launch Vic, Startup Vic. If you follow them, they're posting about events that they're running, which are a lot of virtual. They'll be resharing posts of people who are important in the space. Just the more that you use LinkedIn, you're connecting with people and you're keeping engaged with it. Obviously, of course, you've got the jobs that are posted on there. It's where a lot of people are driving their thought leadership. There's so much that you can engage with and learn from. It really is an incredible tool, and it's free to use. And you can also, if you're new to it, and it can be a bit intimidating knowing what sort of post to put out there or what to comment, just see what other people are doing, and just kind of go from there. What are other people writing, and what are other people posting? Maybe if you just start with a research project that you've recently done, or a paper you've recently read, or there might be someone in the space who really interests you. If you just post that up, that's just starting that engagement. And you'll also, like Isla and I met through here, through LinkedIn, you'll meet some really amazing people, and it's just a real learning environment as much as being a professional connection place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people don't realize how much recruiters go straight to LinkedIn when they're looking for candidates. So they just go in and search people's profiles. There's a setting on LinkedIn where you can say, quietly, "Hi, I'm looking for a job." But even if you don't have that set to "I'm looking for a job," then they still will go and search and contact you if they think you might be suitable for something. It's really handy to, if you're interested in a particular industry or a particular company, you go and follow the company, or you can follow particular recruiters in that, the area. So, if you're interested in kind of market research, there are specialist market research recruiters. So, yeah, that sort of thing. So it's just an absolute kind of boon for connecting with people for getting jobs. But I'd also say there is no point in getting on there, posting something, and then never engaging, because that doesn't get you anything. People, you need to be kind of going out and kind of finding groups, engaging in those groups, following people, commenting on their posts to be seen. So yeah, you've got to be active on there as well.
And
the
I'd
other thing,
say as well,
yep.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say as well, make sure you have a professional photo as well. Really, really important. And if you create your profile, maybe get a friend or family friend to look it over, get some people to get second opinions, and then, make sure it sounds obvious, but make sure spelling's correct and that sort of stuff. That's all really, really important in the detail.
Yeah, and if you've got other social media in your full name, then think about, shutting down your privacy settings so that people can't. If you don't want recruiters to see your personal social media, just make sure you shut down your privacy settings, because there are quite a few companies who will go and just do a kind of digital audit of you if they're interested, they're shortlisting. I've worked for one of those companies, so it happens.
100%.
So
heard some horror stories.
Yeah, there are some horror stories. Yes.
Yeah.
There are also, if you're interested, and if you are interested in particular industries, there are industry associations. Like there's one called the Research Society, which does lots of all commercial market social research. They've just had their conference last week, which was all online. Now that's a great way to connect with people going to conferences. Yes, they used to be in person, but now they're online. You can still make really good connections at events like that. So and it doesn't have to be a full conference that you pay for. There are just lots of industry hubs, meetups, all of that sort of thing. So if you're interested in industry, go out and find those. Camilla, we've got a little bit more time. Can I just pump you for some quick tips about resumes, interviews, that sort of thing that people should really kind of be aware of?
Yes, resumes are always a hot topic. I can give you my favorite tips, and you'll get so many tips as well along the way when it comes to resumes, because they are so important. It's your first opportunity to give an impression. But I think the most important thing when you are putting your resume together is remember that it's your way to show your personality and who you are, which is so important, especially when businesses really do really care about their people and the kind of fit within that. And so anything that you can add, so for example, actually putting your interests, obviously not having half work experience, half interest, but if you do like reading, what book are you reading at the time? Or if you like hiking, what's your favorite hike? You never know, the hiring manager might have read that book or been on that hike, and it just makes an immediate connection. But I would also keep your resume to ideally no longer than 2 pages, if possible. It shows that you can actually get that information down concisely. And unfortunately, as much as it would be great to be able to read pages and pages about people, hiring managers just don't have the time. Recruiters don't have that amount of time. I actually received an amazing application last week, which was somebody sent me their resume, which already was brilliant, but then they also sent me this digital cover letter, which was a slideshow of their life and why they'd done things in highlighting, and it had pictures of them. It even had their graduation video where they
Wow.
collected. It was so great. And I immediately called them, and I actually said to them on the phone, I absolutely loved what you sent, because I already giving you this call, I feel like I know you already, and I've got that, I've already got that impression of you. But also, top tip that I really love seeing on resumes is just a personal profile at the top. Just 3 short, sharp sentences that states whatever you want to put as your opening line, but that it's relevant to the role and it's highlighting your relevant skills. So whether that's, if I was applying for my job in recruitment, Camilla loves communicating with people and, is really driven to find people a job they'll love, really wanting to get a foot in the door within recruitment. It sounds really obvious, but especially if you are at the start of your career and you don't have years of experience to show, it's obvious that you want to be continuing that career. It really is important to just say, hi, this is what I'm good at, this is what I love doing, and this is why I want to be doing it, and then lay everything out really clearly.
I've got a couple of things I wanted to add to this about resumes. One is that sometimes people think they can do a generic resume and send it for every job application they do. Mm-mm. You probably should be tailoring your resume for every job that you apply for. Would you say that's fair, Camilla?
I agree. Even
Yeah.
with that, even with the personal profile, just
Mm,
hitting that. I've received heaps of applications where someone's applying for a business development role, and in the outset, they've said they really want to continue as a financial analyst. And I immediately, even though they look great, I don't understand.
yeah.
I can't put that together. So
Mm,
it's just, and it's in the detail. It's
mm,
true. I think it's that little touch. Someone actually as well sent me an application that said, even in the document it said, please hire me, give a grad a go, which I really
oh,
loved.
yeah.
It might
Cute.
sound it wasn't desperate. I really liked it. I thought it was really great in the
Yeah.
detail, and it's those little touches that will make you stand out for sure.
I've got a question because I don't know the answer to this, and I wonder about it. I've wondered about it with our Master of Applied Psychology students because they do resumes when they're applying for their internships. Do recruiters want to see people's university results or their high school marks on, these kind of
Yeah.
graduate job resumes?
From personally,
Mm,
and just from companies that I work with, 100%. I think, obviously depending on how well you've done.
yep.
If you worked really hard, you've got a great result, put it on there, put everything
Yep.
on there that is going to show what you've done. And also, I actually really love it when people, again, when you say tailor your resume to the job, if you've got units that are really relevant or that you're really proud of, that you've got a really good score in, highlight that, put it in
Mm,
under the detail 100%, because that again just separates you. And I think you should definitely be highlighting any achievement that you have,
mm.
because you deserve to put it out there, and it should be celebrated. And if it means that it's going to contribute to you potentially getting that job, then definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Glad you brought that up. That's a really good point.
Yeah. The other thing I've seen recently, and I think this has got a lot to do with, seems to be really common in the tech companies that are hiring, but they talk about people having work samples or, being able to show a portfolio. And I noticed today I follow a recruiter for the tech company Canva on LinkedIn, and she reposted something that a student had posted on LinkedIn, and this student said, "I'm applying for their graduate program at Canva, and I redesigned their web page as part of my application." As a kind of work sample, and this recruiter was kind of loved it and reposted it, or didn't repost it, but kind of said, that looks great or something like that. So that kind of being able to show people your work, how important is that?
I think with all of these types of, questions or things that you can, whether you can add and should you, I
Mm,
always think you should. If you have, if you have the time, if you can redo a website, or if you can just go that extra mile. I remember going, this is back years before, ugh, years ago at the beginning of my career with Give a Grad a Go, but I always remember this, and it will show this was years ago because someone actually physically sent, they were a graphic designer, and they physically sent um, it was it was like a flyer for their application. It was their resume, but they wanted to show off their design skills. And that
mm,
always stuck in my mind as such a great idea. If you're in design, or I guess with, psychology, like you said, if it's something that you can show as a work sample,
mm,
then definitely, definitely always get creative, be
mm.
authentic, show what your skills are.
Yeah,
And especially in startups where they they tend to give you the opportunity to work on different projects. So if you can show that you've got, a few strings to your bow, then show them off.
yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. I think that's pretty much it for the topics that we wanted to talk about. I've got a few questions in our remaining time, which has got about 15 more minutes. Um, the first couple of questions there, because I don't think everyone can see them, but a couple of people who are international students or non-Australian citizens or permanent residents. One of them is should we bother applying to jobs that are listed only for Australian citizens and permanent residents in the hopes that they will be willing to sponsor us with a visa later if they end up choosing us over other candidates? Really struggling with finding companies willing to hire international students at the
Mm.
moment.
I can really understand that. Like, I speak to a lot of international students about trying to find a job here, and I completely understand it's really tough. I'd say it's not such a blanket answer I can provide. When it comes to the bigger corporations, if they say it's only for Australian citizens, or with full working rights, can't sponsor, that is usually that's that. But when it does come to smaller companies
Mm,
and startups, there is a bit more flexibility, and we have
mm,
found that. So it's take each application as it comes. Usually, a recruiter, like, we will ask, whether you need sponsorship or what your visa rights are from the outset, and then be able to be really honest and say which companies can sponsor. Um, but if you are going to apply, yeah, apply, and then if they
mm,
come back to you, just make sure it's a conversation you have really early on, and not to waste your time or theirs further down the
mm.
line.
Okay. Okay, here's another one that was in the chat. If I have other work experience and a background in finance and accounting, and am currently doing a psychology undergraduate degree, can I go straight into the work field, say consulting, without a master's?
Yeah. I mean, it depends again on the company, but you don't need to, if you want to do a master's for sure.
Mm,
It's an amazing further studying to be doing, but you don't, necessarily need to have that. Obviously, it depends on what you're looking to go into. Um, Also, I know I can't really tailor this advice to you. So if you do want to connect with me after, and I can have a bit more of a chat with you, I'm more than happy to discuss kind of your options as well. But it sounds like if you already have commercial experience, and you don't necessarily need to have that further studying to get a job. Depends what you want to be going into.
okay. Um, Besides what we were talking about just in the answer before, are there any other tips you would have for international students finding jobs in Australia? So you were saying startups and small businesses are potentially more likely to sponsor. Is there anything else that's worth considering?
I think what I've really found is a lot of international students that I've connected with, they're just really proactive, and they tend, I found there's been such amazing engagement on LinkedIn. So like what we were saying earlier, utilize LinkedIn. It is there for you to meet people and connect with people. And even if you apply for a job or connect with someone and they say, sorry, can't sponsor or can't help you right now, there might be something further down the line, or they might be, they might know someone or think of you. That does happen.
Yeah.
And like when we have jobs which aren't always able to sponsor or take on international students, but sometimes we do. And so it just really varies. I think, like I said earlier, just speak to people, connect with people, and just keep building that up. The more proactive you are, the more you put out there, you will get hopefully more positive steps forward. But I know it's really tough. So
Yeah. And that's where those, the networking stuff, meetups, conferences, volunteer work, volunteer internships, if you are able to do that. I know you've got to be careful doing those things because, some people are a bit exploitative with those, but it's all about making connections and showing people what you can do.
yeah, there's
And
actually a really, oh, sorry.
yeah, go on.
There's a really great platform called Volley, which is, I don't know if you had it before, but it's a platform to connect students or people looking for volunteering work with industry experience, which is really cool.
How's that spelt?
Volley, VOLLIE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Righto. Someone's asked, could you give us a list of useful relevant pages or people to follow on LinkedIn? That really depends on what you're interested in. So, I mean,
It's a tough question.
Yeah, it's because it depends what industry you're keen on.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, in terms of, obviously, I'm focusing quite a bit on startups. And I think if you do just start looking at startup hubs or ecosystems, especially, like I said, in Victoria, you've got Stone and Chalk, Launch Vic, Startup Vic. Those three are a great place to start, just to understand what industries there are within the startup sphere. There's so many different types of companies and industries, things that you wouldn't even have, things especially coming out of last year, medtech, huge, different ways to be able to provide health services, using tech. That's got heaps of funding, ed tech, like I said. But again, this is really, really broad. Like I said, it's got to be what you're interested in.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a few more answers here. We're running out of time, so I'll try and quickly get through these.
Okay.
How would you recommend trying to find jobs abroad? I'm really interested in finding a job in Europe, UK, but not too sure how to go about that.
Okay, quick fire answer. Give a Grad a Go has an office in the UK. So I would connect with recruitment companies in the UK, connect with someone who can give you some advice. At the moment, obviously, it's really tricky, but I am speaking to businesses here who have got people coming over from the UK and vice versa. So feel free to connect with someone in the Give a Grad a Go team in the UK. I'm sure they'll be happy to have a chat.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm a first-year undergrad student, but I'm wondering how to get involved in clinical psychology as an undergrad because there are just so many restrictions with working with patients, getting experience. So that my recommendation there, and I'm sure there are others that people would have, is is a bunch of volunteer work that you can do that is kind of clinically based. And the first one is the helplines, going and doing Lifeline. There's just, and all those other kind of helplines. There's massive demand for people to work on those, and they train you. So you don't need to get, you have any clinical experience. They will give you your training. So that's my recommendation for that one. How is the best way to approach job applications in research, particularly social psychology research? I recently finished my honours year and was interested in applying to RA jobs, but it's been very competitive. Yeah, good question. I'm not a great one to answer that question, and I think it's probably not Camilla's.
It's quite specific in terms of that area.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I can't kind of help you with that one right now. Can you please talk a bit more about a career in applied psychology? I'm a first-year student, still wondering about my pathway in psychology. Thank you very much. Ooh, we've got 5 minutes. Um, I'm happy if you want to contact me by email. I am, so it's isla.carboon@unimel.edu.au. I'm happy to have a chat to you about that. More than happy to do that. What are some good volunteering internship opportunities related to psychology for undergrad or honours students? Well, Camilla's just talked about startups. There are also, I think I mentioned, there are a lot of businesses now who have summer internship programs going. So I definitely recommend doing searches for those. There's Summer Internship 2021 because they're taking applications for those now. Have you got any other ones, Camilla, that you've talked to us
I
about volley?
Yeah, and I think also just thinking about if you're asking, I'm not sure if you're asking about the types of opportunities you could go to being a psychology grad, because like I said earlier, those roles that require research skills, people-based skills, you've got marketing, marketing analyst roles, digital marketing roles, customer support. You could get involved with kind of similar to, well, not similar, but in terms of the skills you've done in, like you said, the lifeline work.
Mm,
If you join, say, like a tech startup, they love giving grads a go to get involved with like customer support. And that's where you learn how the platform works, who the customers are, how to deal with that, how to handle, how to be consultative, all that sort of stuff. So it's really broad. But yet, Ribbit that I mentioned earlier is a great platform to look for internships or project-based work. Unfortunately, we give a grad a go. We do, all of our roles are primarily full-time work, usually permanent roles, but sometimes we do also have paid internships as well.
great, thank you for that. To what extent does what we major or minor in limit our opportunities? I was told our minors do not show up on our transcripts, but will our knowledge still be recognised? I suppose my advice with that is that's up to you in your resume to highlight your major, your minor, and particularly if there's a particular area of your major or minor that you were most interested in or really engaged with. That's where you get to highlight that on your resume and then potentially in your interview. Don't rely on your transcript.
100%. And actually, a company I've been working with recently, they really wanted to know what people chose for their majors and minors to gain more of an understanding of their brain and what they're interested in. And again, it's another opportunity to talk about what you're excited about and what your passions are. So definitely put it on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can get experience in market research? I am currently considering my options, but I don't know much about the industry. Yes, there is, because market research agencies hire people to do casual work. That can be on telephones, being one of those annoying people you get phone calls from going, "Hi, I just like to ask you a few questions." So you can get hired to do that, telephone interviewing. They also hire people to do casual face-to-face interviewing. Sometimes that's out in the street. So I recently saw a few of those jobs. I think I saw them on Seek. So some of the big research agencies, EY Sweeney, I can't remember who the other ones were off the top of my head, but I know a few of our MAP students are actually doing that work at the moment to just get themselves some boots on the ground, research experience. With regards to personal websites, portfolios, would it be all right to put it on the resume with a hyperlink, or should I spell it out in full?
Hyperlink.
Yee.
Make it as easily accessible as possible and put it at the top. Anything that you want to show. And actually, I will just add to that, if you have skills, say if you've got SPSS or you can use Excel really well, any
Mm,
skill that you've got that shows technical aptitude,
yeah,
put your skills at the top as
yeah.
well. Make it
Yeah,
really clear.
employers love Excel. You've got no idea.
Yeah.
There's a question here about recommending a career of educational psychology. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into that. It's also not an area of my specialty, but if you're interested in education, working with young people, and you've got the psychology background, absolutely, it's a fascinating area. And last question, and this is really relevant for you, Camilla, to what extent should we include job experience that isn't directly related to the job? For example, retail hospitality jobs.
So glad they asked. Whoever you are, great question. So important, because there's a story related to this. I'll try to be really quick. Is again, I've been side note, working for an asset management firm, very, very, very competitive hiring process. And one of the factors that they were looking for were really well-rounded people, and we were putting forward applications, amazing people, great academics, all that sort of stuff. And they were like, well, they've only done these couple internships. What else have they done? And I was like, oh, they've worked at Coles actually for 4 years. And they're like, why haven't they put it on their resume? 100% put all of your experience on your resume, because it shows that you're hardworking, you've managed to hold down a job whilst you've been studying. If you have, you've got those communication skills. It's shown you've stuck at something. Like, definitely, you don't need to go into heaps of detail of what you've done. You can put a couple bullet points, but definitely put that in. It's so important.
Yeah. People really understand that retail and hospitality jobs can be quite challenging. And so that, frontline working with people and showing that you've done that for a period of time is really, really great to demonstrate.
Yeah.
Okay, we are done. We're only 1 minute over time. Thank you so much, everybody, for staying with us. And Camilla, it's just been really wonderful talking to you. Everybody, get onto LinkedIn if you're not already, or you can just web search, give a Grad a go, and get in contact with Camilla if you're looking at, looking for your graduate job. Thank you so much, Camilla, and thanks everybody.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was awesome.
Yeah.